Alright guys, welcome back to another Master and Apprentice LEGO review. Today we've got the brand new LEGO Star Wars set 75433, the Jango Fett's Starship. It's going to be retailing for $69.99, $70 with 707 pieces. This set will be coming out officially August 1st. You might be able to find it early, a couple of stores like Target, Walmart, but officially it will be available on August 1st. And this is going to be obviously from Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Episode 2. We've gotten a set like this a couple years ago now, like 4 or 5 years ago, with Boba Fett's Starship, or the Slave One. Very similar in design. This is a little bit bigger. You can see the box is a lot bigger, obviously. Obviously, the box art for this is just kind of that scene from Attack of the Clones when Jango Fett is being chased by Kenobi to Genosha. So very cool box art, kind of basic, but still very, resembling of that scene. And you can see you got the minifigures down at the bottom right. I don't know why they put a Clone Wars in the bottom left. Usually they like to symbolize what these sets are from by putting a character from that movie on the box art. If it's Ahsoka, they'll have Ahsoka in the bottom left. If it's a Clone Wars set, they'll have that orange Ahsoka clone in the box. I don't know why they did it for this set, but nonetheless it's there. So that's the front of it. Then we have for the back of the box art the scene from Camino, again where we see the Slave One in action. Obviously we don't have Kenobi, but if you remember just 3 years ago, maybe even 4 at this point, I can't remember, we had Kenobi Starfighter, and it had Kaminoan, had the Kaminoan box art. Very, very cool. It just kind of shows off the different play features and functions. This again is very similar to the Boba Fett Starship that we got a couple years ago, but there's a couple differences, and one of them you can see starting with a bomb, like the detonator thing that they have, a seismic detonator. We'll get into that as we get into this set, but for the back of the box art, pretty basic but cool nonetheless. The first minifigure we have is Lama Su. We did get another Kaminoan, like I said, a couple years ago in Kenobi Starfighter. That was Tong Wei. Now we have Lama Su. So it's nice that LEGO gave us a whole new Kaminoan. It's different mold too. The headpiece has that extra like collar piece. So it's very, very cool. It's very similar to the last Kaminoan, but it's cool that we get another one nonetheless. It's pretty basic for the most part. It's got like that skirt piece with like the printing on the front. The middle piece, the torso piece, is kind of very similar to the other Kaminoan that we got, just a little bit of different color. And then the arms are just black with the hand pieces. The head piece is probably the best part of it. It's the most unique about it, and it's probably what stands out the best for it. Then we have a young Boba Fett. This one, as far as I'm concerned, is a carbon print copy of the one that we got in Jango Fett's UCS set that we got earlier this year. I don't have it, so I can't really compare. But from all the pictures I've seen, it's the exact same. And that's a little unfortunate because I know a lot of fans, and it's not that big of a deal to me personally, but I do agree it's a little silly. The hair piece is relatively inaccurate compared to the models that we've had in years past. They kind of gave it an extra detailing with the hair kind of sticking up and the swooping and the length of it. It's just inaccurate, especially compared to the hair pieces we've had in years past. This one just doesn't compare to it as nicely. For the front of it, I got the printing that we kind of expected, not very unique, but it works nonetheless. And then he does have the shorter leg pieces. They don't really move at all, but it is nice because he is a kid, so you would expect him to get the short pieces. And then he is double-sided head printing, so he has like a little bit of a grumpier side and a happier side. So it's pretty cool overall. Again, not like crazy unique, but it's nice to get a minifigure like this who wasn't really seen on screen a lot, but is noticeable, and people know who Boba Fett is. So get a kid Boba Fett is cool. So nice minifigure overall. And then lastly, we have the new Jango Fett. Now there's technically 2 Jango Fetts that have been released. Like I mentioned with the Boba Fett, there's a UCS Jango Fett Starfighter that came out earlier this year. And that one comes with a different Jango Fett, very, very similar to this one, except the UCS version has some arm printing. So if you want a more detailed version, you can get that one. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but it is more detailed, and I like that variation because if you're getting a set that's 3 times as much, you should be getting a little bit more detail and effort put into your set. But for what we get in this $70 set, this Jango Fett looks amazing. The leg printing looks really, really good. He has the new antenna rangefinder piece. The ones in the past have a little bit more flimsy, not as nice. They kind of stick up a little bit higher. This one's a little bit shorter. The mold's a lot more stable, and whatever material they used is better in my opinion. I think it looks really, really good. The helmet is a little bit more of an updated version than we've seen in years past. It's been a while since we've gotten a Jango Fett. He comes with the same sort of blasters that he's had in years past. I would have liked to see like a nice updated mold for the blasters. I wasn't really expecting it because Lego's never done that, but it would have been nice. But for what we get from the front view, it looks really, really good. Something I also like about this minifigure is he's got some nice head printing. You know, in the earlier days, they did like just a black head because the helmet piece was like transparent, and so if you wanted the black visor, you had to have a black head, and so that it would look like the visor was black. This is nice printing, and if you turn him around, he's got an updated headpiece. As you can see, a double-sided headpiece, and you might be wondering, why would you want that? Because he's wearing a helmet 90% of the time. Well, the nice thing about this minifigure is they gave him a hairpiece, which I don't remember them doing that in years past. I could be wrong, but it's nice that we get a hairpiece because Jango Fett has his helmet off quite a few scenes in Attack of the Clones. So it's cool that we get him with a hairpiece and a helmet, so you can have the variation of what you like. You know, 90% of the time when he's flying the Slave One in Attack of the Clones, he doesn't have his helmet on. So it's pretty cool that we get that option with this. I think all the minifigures in the set are solid to great, including Jango Fett. Then we have the Slave One itself, Jango Fett's Starfighter. I have Boba Fett's on the side, and I'll compare it here in a second. But just by itself, I like this one. This Slave One iteration is much needed updated version from years and years past. Everything about it looks really, really good. They did change the, I don't know, blasters at the end of it. They're stud shooters now, whereas years past they were like makeshift ones. They didn't really do anything. They did have stud shooters on the older one, as I'll show in here in a second, but they just changed it a little bit around. But for the rest of it, like the surrounding edge pieces, the middle piece, a cockpit, it's all relatively very, very similar. There's some differences, as I'll show in a second. Overall, the look of it looks really, really good. This is a set that, like I said with the Boba Fett all those years ago, it's a really good play set, and I'll show all the play functions off here in a second. But as you can see right here, it comes with a little stand even. It's a really good display set for 70 bucks if you want a Slave One. If you want both, which I might even put both up on my shelf now, because now that I have both generations of the Slave One, it looks real sick. Like, it's not necessarily a UCS version, I'll say, but for a playset, it's probably the best option you're going to get for a display set from a playset. So all that being said, I really like the display ability of it. As you can see, the tiling, paneling, even some of the stickering here on the side, it's all, you know, kind of what you'd expect. It'd be nice if they give you printed pieces, but you don't really expect that from Lego these days. All right, so like I said, kind of moving it around, it's very similar to the ones we've had in years past. We have the stud shooters. I don't really know what this purpose is. That doesn't rotate anything. It's just there. I don't know if it's supposed to just be for, you know, extra detailing. The wings, just like the ones in the years past, they kind of rotate with the ship as you move it. Well, they're not right now for whatever reason, but it does. And then here on the back, just like the old model as well, you have this built-in handle, which is sick. I loved it from the first time. I love it again. So it just hides in there real nice. You pull it out, and you got a handle, and it works real well. It looked good and worked well before. It's no different this time around. So if we go ahead, show you the back, very similar to the first model with the Boba Fett. This piece opens up, whereas the first iteration, it didn't really do anything. You could hide like a carbonite slab in there. This actually does have a purpose. As you can see, there's a little seismic charge blast in there. So that stays in there. This pushes forward. This piece right here, as you can see, it kind of like slides. If you go ahead and push it forward, this bottom piece opens up and the seismic charge drops, like from the movie, which is pretty cool, all things being said. And then to close it, you just push it up, and that pushes the sliding piece forward, and then it locks like that. So it works really, really well. Yeah, and it's as simple as that. You just put the seismic charge back in there, and it sits in there. It rattles a little bit, obviously, when you move it, but for what it is and how it works, I think it works amazingly. There's really nothing on, you know, the living part of the ship besides the blasters. I'll show the minifigures here in a second, but as you can see, it's a lot more space than the first model. The first model could only fit one minifigure in there, and I'll show you here that you can actually fit two. So as you can see, I've got Boba Fett standing up. Unfortunately, he doesn't really stand on anything. There's no studs, but he does stand in there pretty nicely. And then Boba Fett just sits in here like this, even with the jetpack on. You can't have the blasters in hand, but you can keep the jetpack on, you can keep the helmet on, it works the same. He sits on those studs, you have Boba Fett, and it closes just nicely. So you can actually fit both in them, which I think is perfect, you know what I mean? They're both in the ship multiple times in the movie. You should be able to put both of them in there. I wish the first iteration of Slave One with Boba Fett could do it. Now we can, and I like that addition nonetheless. Just showing off the wings a little bit, I think they look really, really good. They aren't too much of a build difference compared to the first one besides coloring pieces, but the design is very similar. They don't really do anything, like this stuff is just kind of for design and aesthetics, but it kind of gives that real look from the movie of like the different wires and tubes and hydraulics. It looks really, really good. And then these wings do kind of like fold in and out. It's not really of a purpose. It's just, you know, however you want it displayed. And then for the back, kind of towards the engines or the boosters, there's really not much going on. You have like these yellow effects. I think those are for like a booster effect. I don't actually know if they have a purpose or not, but it's not really much on the underside. It's kind of ugly, to be honest, but it works for what it is. And then again, that handle just sticks in there real nice. The other piece that comes just like the Slave One is the other addition that comes in the set, just like the first iteration of the Slave One with Boba Fett, is a little cart. It's like for carrying the extra ammunition and missiles and whatnot. In the middle here, you can put the extra studs for the stud shooters. You can put the seismic charge here in the back, which I usually do. You can put a dude up there in the front, which you usually can. But the biggest purpose for this is obviously the capability to open up like that. It's just quite literally just pushes. There's just a hinge piece, and then you can go ahead and put the Slave One right on there. So if you go ahead, put the front of the Slave One like that, kind of on that sliding piece slope, and then just lean it back, it just sits right on there, and it's balanced. It works perfectly. It's very similar to the first design. The design is a little bit different compared to the first one. The first one was like a ladder piece that held it up. It wasn't as stable. This one's actually a little bit more stable compared to the first design. All right, so like I said, comparative, they're very, very similar. Obviously, the biggest difference is the colors. And the design of the cockpit is very similar, I checked, but it is different in general. So if you go ahead, open it up, you can see these are supposed to be sitting forward in the cockpit, whereas these are supposed to be sitting upside down in the cockpit, which is actually more accurate. This is not how they sit. They're supposed to be sitting this way. You can see there's a panel in there with like some wiring and controls. That is how they're supposed to sit. But that one can only fit one. This one can only fit, well, this one can fit two. But it just depends on what you would like. Would you like it to look better interior, or would you like it to look better with two in there? You know, you pick and choose what you want. Like, but as you can see, the outside exterior part of the middle, I don't even know what that would be, like the bridge part. I don't know. You can see very, very similar design. Like I mentioned, the stud shooter here is not here. I don't even know what this is supposed to be, but there's a thing there. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a makeshift blaster, but it's there. It's represented in the same spot, but just different design. And then instead of having these makeshift blasters here, you have the stud shooters here. So again, very similar design, just kind of different. Pick and choose what you'd like. I personally like this look better. Like for the stud shooters, if they're going to be anywhere, I think that looks just weird. But I like the design of the makeshift blasters. Like this doesn't even look like anything. Those look like blasters. So again, you kind of got to pick and choose what you want. The wings are literally identical. The design, the build, all of it is literally the exact same, just color difference. And then like the wings where they attach with the hydraulics and like the slope pieces, all the exact same design again. And then even the stickers are kind of in the same area. You have stickering here, stickering here, stickering on the top, stickering on the top, all again, pretty much the exact same. So very, very similar. For the actual play set part of it, where you take it off, again, this is so much more stable. It works so much more better. I just prefer this stand way more. This one sucks. As you can see, again, it's just that one ladder piece. It's not as strong, not as stable, a lot more flimsy. It fell like off 3 times trying to set this up for the video. So just keep that in mind. That's not as good as a display. And then the interior part, again, doesn't have an extra piece to pull out or anything. It just opens and closes. You can put the carbonite slab in there, but that's all it does. Whereas this one has the extra, you know, functionality of being able to drop the bombs and whatnot. And I like that as well. So far this one is winning. The back of it, I couldn't see any differences. Open it up, hold it, it works. The design is very similar, akin to this one. Same thing. Pull this out, hold it, very, very similar. So honestly, is it worth what, I think this was like $40 or $45 when it came out. This is $70. Is it worth it? I don't know, but like, I think this is probably the more reasonable increase in inflation and prices when it comes to Lego Star Wars. This is a much better version of that, and it definitely requires, I think, a bigger price. Like if this was 45, I think this is worth 50 or 55. Now you add inflation, you're going to get somewhere near 60, 70. It seems actually right. So this is one of the better Lego Star Wars sets of this summer, in my opinion. So that brings us to the conclusion of this review. Like I said, overall, I think this is one of the better Lego Star Wars sets for this summer. A summer, marred with, by everyone's opinion, overpriced Lego Star Wars sets. Stuff that is undersized and yet overpriced. This seems to be one of the fairest options available. And for all the designs and upgrades you get in the build, I think it's worth it. For the minifigures too, I really have no complaints. The biggest complaint is obviously that Boba Fett with the hairpiece. I can kind of get over that because I really don't care about that one. The ones that I cared about the most were going to be the Taun We and the Jango Fett, and those look the best. So again, overall, I think this is one of the better options you're going to get. I think this is a set you're going to find on sale for like $60, like multiple times throughout this year and next. So keep an eye out for it. I definitely recommend this set. It's a pretty good build, easy build. I built it in like maybe 2 hours, I think 2.5 hours. A great set. So I think I'm going to give this set an 8 out of 10, maybe even an 8.5 out of 10. A pretty great set. Again, marred by the overpriced price tag, but so is every other set this summer. So let us know what you guys think down in the comments. If you guys are excited about this new Slave One compared to the last Boba Fett one. Let us know if you guys are going to be grabbing it. Let us know what you guys think of our review down in the comments. If you guys agree, disagree, if there's anything we're missing that is important. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.